I'm now joined by the chosen one, Tyron Woodley, who's in Las Vegas, Nevada, taking on Gilbert Burns this weekend in the main event. Gilbert is an interesting opponent for you, a very risky opponent, because I think the expectation, frankly, Tyron, is that you're going to win this fight.
I don't really feel like that. I feel like, he just had like a 5-fight win streak, beat a top 5 welterweight, got power and great submission, strong and aggressive. So I don't really say it that way. I say it is all the welterweights in the top 5 are all risky opponents, and he provides different risks than other ones.
You've mentioned your resume compared to his. Do you think that it's going to be a different level of competition for him this weekend, something that he's not accustomed to?
I think that he hasn't had the opportunity to fight the guys that I've had, and that's all it really is. I've had the opportunity to fight world-class guys, world champions, title contenders, and guys of that nature, top 5 welterweights, and he just, hasn't been in the division that long, and he's just now getting to the point where he's fighting, this will be his second guy in the top 5. So, in my opinion, I feel like I'm more experienced. I feel like I've been here longer, and I feel like, I got more tools than Damian Maia had to present for him. So I don't think he's in over his head, but I do think there are levels to it, and I think I'm on a different level.
Your previous fight against Kamara Usman, you've mentioned that in that fight, you felt like you weren't really there. We heard Cowboy Cerrone say the same kind of thing about his fight against Conor McGregor earlier this year. What kind of steps have you taken since then to make sure that that's not going to happen this time around?
You never really know when it's going to happen, because I had a lot going on against the Darren Till fight, a lot going on against the Robbie Lawler fight. I've had a lot going on in all my world title fights, but sometimes you just have that moment. I had one other time in my career when I fought Rory McGowan. I just felt like I was just there. My body, I was telling it to go and it wouldn't go. And, for me, I just did everything within my power, trying to block all distraction, all negativity, just really refocusing, going back to the basics. And anything that I really didn't necessarily have to be doing at that moment during the camp, I just excluded. So for me, I put those things into my own hands, and hopefully that's going to turn out into a dominant performance.
What have you done from a psychological perspective? Losing a fight like that when you're the champion and losing your championship is obviously a very difficult thing for any competitor to overcome, especially under this circumstance where you say that you just kind of weren't able to dial in on that particular night. Have you gone to sports psychologists? What kind of steps have you taken in that regard?
I was seeing a regular psychologist just about life and just, unpacking things in life and just trying to be able to just deal with certain things head on, and also just be able to use different tools to be able to, just be a different person in life and have the outcome that I want to have. So I've seen sports psychologists as well, but in reality, I feel like it was just a lot going on, a lot on my plate, a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, a lot of stuff going on in my athletic life, and I had my hands in a lot of different pots. So I just put things on pause. I didn't step away from things I was doing. I just muted it for a second so I can go out here and kick some butt.
Going back to before that fight, you said to him, "How are you going to beat me?" And when I unpacked that at the time, I thought that's a very interesting point. You're a higher credentialed wrestler. You have more power than him. It was going to be interesting to see how he was going to be able to solve the puzzle that is Tyron Woodley. Do you feel like in a rematch, we'd get to see all of the different things that make you, that make you one of the greatest welterweights to ever step into the cage?
100%. I think at 50%, I think me fighting at 50%, he would have had a hard time beating me, just with, being more creative with the striking, more accomplished wrestler, heavier hands, the experience of fighting higher level guys more often, and then also just being in those 5-round fights more than he had. So I stand by that statement. I asked how was he going to beat me? He could never beat me. That was a version of me beating myself. I didn't show up. I didn't come out. I didn't fight. And whatever reason that happened, that's what I have to deal with. Kamara Usman can never beat me fighting, even not even at 100%. I don't want to do percentages because people say Tyron said at 50% or Kamara said at 70%. We get joked around about that. But just in layman's terms, like me fighting at a level that I'm known to fight at, I don't think he has the tools to beat me.
I wanted to get a reaction from you on some breaking news that just came down. Colby Covington has left American Top Team. I think the split happened amicably, at least fairly amicably. One of the issues, I guess, was that he was unable to continue doing interviews without having to speak about his teammates in a negative light. And I guess that is what caused the separation. What's your reaction to hearing about that?
Yeah, I'm not fighting Kamara. I'm not fighting Colby Covington, and I don't want to give him any attention. He has had every opportunity to fight me, so I'm not going to give him my platform. I'm not going to give him my week of fight week. Gilbert Burns, the current champion and guys of that nature, I'm willing to talk about. But Colby Covington is a mockery to the sport and to himself.
I want to talk about some of the myths that surround you. I've spoken to your manager, Abe Kawa, about this, that there's these weird, I guess, narratives that have been creative, and I don't know how they got creative. One of which is that you were an inactive champion. From the time you won the belt to the time you lost the belt, you were the most active male champion in the UFC. At least the welterweight division was the most active championship division in the UFC. How did these narratives get started, and this perception of you begin to form in the minds of certain fans of the sport?
I don't know. I mean, you just said it there. The stats speak for themselves. I really don't have to speak much on that. But, you go back and look, and statistics will show that at one point in time, I was the most active. I had the belt for the longest amount of time out of current champions. And I was one of two people in the history of the sport that won, not just fought and won 4 world title fights in less than a year. So people just in 2021 and 2020 and 2019, these generation of fans, they don't do research. They just hear it from someone and they go run with it. So if somebody did a small Google search, they would have found out those facts were all false.
And finally, this is obviously a massive fight for you against Gilbert Burns this weekend. In terms of the welterweight title picture, they're saying that Usman and Masvidal might not fight this coming July. Do you feel like a big win over Burns here puts you right back as next in line for the title shot against Kamara Usman?
Definitely, I feel like a big win over Burns definitely puts me right there in the picture. So I'm focusing more so on the big fight and the big performance more than a world title fight. That's the fight I want, but I think when you think about the next step, like I was thinking about fighting Colby after I fought Usman, then going up to fight middleweight. When you think too far down the road, I think you don't give the attention to the person that's in front of you, and that's very dangerous in this division. So I do think a victory over Gilbert Burns put me in that position, but I'm going to focus on fighting and beating him first, and then we'll talk Sunday about that.
All right, Tyron, you're one of the best to ever do it. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you face Gilbert Burns this weekend.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you guys.